Post Millennial says NBC News defends "We're coming for your children" chant at NYC drag march, arguing it's been used for years at Pride events. But it's more than that. They tweeted, "The coming for your children chant has been used for years at Pride events, according to longtime march attendees and gay rights activists, who said it's one of the many provocative expressions used to regain control of slurs against LGBTQ people." Here's the funny thing. The NBC News article says, in the 21-second clip circulated by a right-wing web streamer channel.
Is that you?
That's us, by the way.
Oh, hey.
That's Timcast News.
Former Vice member.
NewsGuard certified, by the way. It says dozens of people in the streets can be heard chanting, "We're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping." But one voice that is louder than the crowd, it's not clear whose, or whether the speaker was a member of the LGBTQ community, is heard saying at least twice, "We're here, we're coming for your children." First of all, in the video, you can hear they're all chanting it.
People.
And you can see their mouths.
Yeah.
You can see multiple people saying this thing.
Yeah.
Now, here's my point.
Also, notice they didn't add the clip.
They did.
They're linking it, but they didn't embed it in this article.
But my point is this. Why are they simultaneously arguing it's a totally normal chant they always have done, and also nobody did it, it's one weird person, we don't know who that person is? Which is it? Pick one. Now, here's the good part. Shoe on Head tracked down one of the sources, pointing out that NBC News said a leaderless group of activists with the Radical Fairies, a loose-knit LGBTQ collective, and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, a charity and protest group, have helped organize the march in more recent years, according to Huffington Post. There are no sponsorships by companies at the drag march. To just clarify, NBC News is reporting a leaderless group of activists with the Radical Fairies helped organize this march where they chanted, "We're coming for your children." Okay. Thank you, Shoe on Head, for this one. Harry Hay Jr. was an American gay rights activist, NAMBLA activist, communist, labor advocate, co-founder of the Mattachine Society, as well as the Radical Fairies. So it was an outright NAMBLA activist. What is that? North American Man-Boy Love Association?
That is the North American Man-Boy Love Association.
So it was a communist pedophile who founded this organization that now goes on to help organize a march in which they're chanting, "We're coming for your children." And NBC News says, nothing to see here, folks. Shout out, by the way, to Elad Eliyahu, reporting for Timcast News on the ground, who caught this video. And I want to stress this. When Elad tweeted this video out, we didn't think that much of it. We're just like, here they go again, chanting this thing.
People.
And then it went crazy viral, and it's gone this far. But shout out to Shoe on Head for pulling this information up.
This is why you should follow @Timcast News on Twitter, because you would see a lot of stuff first.
Let's go. Which, by the way, the headline's so interesting. It's not that big of a deal because we've been doing it for years.
That thing you
that doesn't make it better. That makes it worse.
That thing you're scared about, we've been doing it for longer than you realize.
They've been writing books about it since Eros and Civilization by Herbert Marcuse came out in like the 60s or something like that. These arguments for intergenerational relationships have been made by queer theorists for the better part of 50 years. This is a normal leftist perspective. If you're a leftist, like philosopher, like scholar or whatever, that is normal to hear. People are going to feel more comfortable as LGBT issues become more topical. People in academia are going to feel more comfortable making the argument that there is no such thing as innocence, that there is no reason to prevent children from seeing sexual activity, being sexually active themselves. These are not arguments that I'm making. These are arguments that are made by people like Michel Foucault, Herbert Marcuse, and people that are cutting edge in the field of queer theory. And
communists.
They're all Marxists, they're all leftists, they're all communists.
But when they organize an event, we should think nothing of it. It's fine. Don't question this.
I think different things than what you're saying.
So this is
that's why this article is so weird. Tim is totally right. They're saying we do this all the time, and also it's not a big deal. And there's nothing.
And also that person's not a part of our group, and we don't even believe it's real.
This is not a bad thing. This is a resource. If you look on Twitter, the actual tweet that NBC made has a community notes thing on it and stuff. So that is a good thing, and it should be used by everybody that wants to fight the left and the literal attack on children, because what we're talking about is their admission that they want to target children. The specific reason is because they want to interrupt the way that adults raise their children, because grown-ups raise children that are well-adjusted and happy are not revolutionary. They don't end up in queer lifestyles generally. They just don't end up in doing a lot of drugs and out on the street. And the left wants people in those conditions because unhappy people are revolutionaries. Happy, satisfied people are not revolutionaries. And the left is full of actual communist revolutionaries. Yeah. So your kids are their target, and that is not an exaggeration. They want to raise your kids to be revolutionaries. They want to raise your kids to hate you. That is a true statement. Sorry.
Don't let your kids be on TikTok.
No, for real.
Like the Vivek Ramaswamy right now saying kids under 16 should not be allowed on any of these social apps. Like, I think it's one of the best political positions I've heard in a long time. Because I'm fully convinced, if kids did not have TikTok at 14 and did not, I don't know what you're allowed to say on YouTube, but if they didn't have corn or they didn't watch TikTok, like, I'm convinced the trans thing wouldn't even exist. It's this weird fetish culture paired with these TikTok algorithms that are just prolonging it. And that is why we have you
have children. I want people who have kids to imagine this, right? I shouldn't even say that. Anybody, just imagine this. You have a 12-year-old. They go outside and they're walking around by themselves. And let's say they're riding their bike. They ride their bike a few miles and they come across an old warehouse. It's a sex club. They go inside by themselves. And there's a bunch of people engaged in lewd and lascivious behaviors. And they all start talking to the kid and inviting the kid over to partake. That's the internet. The internet, with your kids on the internet, is you being like, have fun, good luck. And your kids could stumble across these sex clubs. And they're going to see these things and watch it and have groomers groom them. And we've heard this from many individuals. In fact, what you're referring to, we actually had a couple of detransitioners explain to us that they're going on places like Tumblr. And they'll get people saying like, hey, why don't you try wearing some boys' clothes and see how you feel? Post some pictures. They do. What happens next? They get bombarded by likes and comments about how cool they are. They feel good. Then they say, did you feel good when you did it? Like, yeah, it felt really good. And they're like, do more. What actually feels good is the social acceptance.
Yeah. Belonging.
Yeah. And then they keep telling these kids to do more and more and more and more. And that was the story we heard explicitly from one detransitioned individual. So all that really matters, don't let your kids go to adult events. Don't let your kids be exposed to this stuff. But I agree with you, Vivek's position on this stuff. We were talking about this last night. If you go out in public and you hold up a big sign, a big picture of porn, you're going to get arrested. Or at the very least, the cops are going to take it from you. They're going to cite you or arrest you, or it's like obscenity laws. If you speak your political mind, you're fine. If you go online and speak your political mind, you will be destroyed. But of course, porn is everywhere and totally acceptable on the internet. So it's backwards. The internet is a lawless Wild West place. And a lot of people are saying it's losing its Wild West edge. And there were good things about it when it was the Wild West, in that you could have a decentralized network of your friends actually doing productive things. But what happened was the internet started with a bunch of tech nerds. And that's why you end up with, in the early days, cool things happening online, cool stories. Then people who want to hide from the mainstream start using it, and you get weirdos using the internet and weird things on the internet. Now you have the mainstreaming and the centralization of the internet, where everything's becoming more like apps, and it's less free flowing, less about the domain and more about the app you're using. But still, we've not codified anything to say keep kids out of these adult facilities these on the internet. That needs to happen.
Yeah, I don't think there's a benefit to it. I was thinking about recently, I wrote this story about how middle school test scores are sort of tanking. And we saw a huge drop in the National Report Card in 2012. And for me, it's impossible. I know I can't prove correlation or causation, but Snapchat got released in July of 2011 and Instagram got released in October of 2010. And I think it's interesting because a specific study talked about how fewer kids choose to read for fun on their own. And that's true of all performance levels. And now you wonder, what are they doing? Are they outside running around more? Are they No, they're all on TikTok. They're on Instagram. They're on Snapchat. They are completely devoted to the screen, and they're suffering because of it. Again, there are probably lots of things that factor into this, but I don't think we can deny that social media has changed childhood, or at least preteenhood, forever. And I don't know that it's beneficial. People who say, oh, you get to connect with people and find your community. Like, shouldn't we be encouraging kids to do this in person, to have in-person conversations and to find communities that they see face to face that we know are not someone else? There was a reason that show Catfish got so popular, right?
Yeah.
Because it reminds you constantly that you don't know exactly who you're talking to on the internet unless you have actually met them. And if it can happen to you when you're, 21 and talking to someone online, think of what can happen to basically an even more gullible child who gets online at 12.
Yeah. Well, and it's so widespread, and sadly, like, most of society does not live on Twitter and see these videos go viral. We have 340 million people in our country. The vast majority of them will never see that video of that chant. So what's concerning is you'll tell them they're trying to groom your kids. Look, they're admitting it, but they don't see that. Like, most average moms and dads still believe that the public schools are wonderful. Our teachers would never groom the kids. They're not actually. They just want equality. Like, a lot of people stuck in this. They don't realize.
But it's changing.
I hope so.
But Bud Light proves it. That's
Bud
my
Light does
point.
prove it. That's true. Once it becomes that mainstream, my problem is that there's still too much of a denial that our country has related to things like this. Do you remember 2 years ago when the San Francisco Gay Choir during Zoom came out and literally sang, "We're coming for your children"? It's like they've been telling us for years what they're trying to do. Why are we just now waking up to it?
I think part of the reason why we're just now waking up to it is because people have not had there's not been a lot of voices articulating what the actual intent is. Like, the fact that there is an effort made by people on the left to interrupt the raising of children so that way they can change their opinions to be a socialist opinion, that's looked at as a conspiracy theory, right? And it has been.
I think that's only one small element of it. I think the bigger picture is just that the Occam's razor suggests there are people who want to abuse kids. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.